Hey everyone, Isaac here, and by the time you are watching this, I've just landed back from Switzerland. I was away for a family vacation and a bit of business, and whoa, this trip really shifted my perspective. For those who are new here, welcome to Streetwise Economics, where we break down markets, money, and the global economy in a way that is very easy to understand. I'm a Canadian citizen originally from Zimbabwe, and I've spent most of my time focused on the US and Canadian stock markets. But lately, I've been seeing the bigger picture. And today, I want to talk about why every investor, especially new ones, should start thinking globally, even if you have never left your city. A little bit about me. I was born in Zimbabwe, grew up surrounded by love, a community that exhibited Ubuntu. And when I grew up, I was part of a larger community that cared deeply about each other. Wonderful weather. And even though Zimbabwe had a lot of current swings, price hikes, and other challenges as a country, I really appreciate my experience living in Zimbabwe. I'm still deeply connected to Zimbabwe, even up to now. We grew up having real conversations about economics, how it affected our day-to-day lives. And later on, I moved on to Canada in 2014, where I pursued my master's in food and resource economics at the University of British Columbia. And I got a scholarship called the MasterCard Foundation scholarship that financially enabled me to complete that master's program. And I even did a second master's degree, but that's not the point. My real life experiences started after I graduated from University of British Columbia, UBC as we call it. That's when I started to learn more about the markets, about how I could make money. And I've shared the story that was a turning point on this channel. But if you haven't watched that video, I worked to a bank in Canada, the top 6 banks. And one of the top 6 banks, when I got in there, I wanted to invest my money. And one of the financial advisors said that I could put the money in what are called guaranteed investment certificates. And I asked them, what is the rate of return? It was 2%, which was less than inflation at that time. So instead of being angry at what this financial advisor was saying, to me, it just didn't make sense. I had to find out a way how I could invest money and get a return, a real return. In other words, a return that beats inflation. So that's how I started my journey, started reading a lot of books, and I've even written my own book, The Intelligent Millennial Investor. You can grab a copy here, and I have another upcoming one specifically focusing on how to trade profitably. So this was part of my journey for me to then pivot into the financial markets. Now, as I moved to Canada, like I've alluded to, the financial system here, I noticed it is more stable, but it's still full of its own challenges and opportunities. That experience taught me something important, that money moves differently in every country, but the principle stays the same. And now, after spending time in Switzerland, one of the world's most expensive but stable economies, I've realized how much we can learn just by observing how people live, how people spend and save money around the world. I've been fortunate enough to travel to quite several countries, including the United States, the UK, Cote d'Ivoire, and many other countries that I've traveled to. But now when I connect the dots, I realize how privileged I am, but now I am starting to look at this perspective from the lens of a retail investor, from someone who wants to learn and make money from investing. So let's talk a little bit more about why I think global investing isn't just about luxury, it's about perspective in my view. The way that I look at global investing isn't just about the wealthy or for people flying around the world. It's not about owning a vacation home in Europe or trading currency pairs at 3 a.m. It's about shifting your mindset. Ask yourself, why is a cup of coffee $10 in Zurich? Why is the public transport system so efficient in Tokyo? Why do people use mobile payments everywhere in Kenya? For example, M-Pesa. Those are not just random facts. They are clues about inflation, wages, and how money flows. And when you start connecting these dots, you make better decisions as an investor. Even if you are only investing in the US or Canadian stocks, like I do, the world still affects your portfolio through supply chains, interest rates, currency fluctuations, and international demand. If you have been following what has been happening with the trade war between China, the US, and even to an extent, these reciprocal tariffs that have been levied by President Trump, you would admit that even if you are Canadian like me, you have a portfolio that is just focused on Canada. What's happening in China, what's happening in the US would still affect me. So there are three ways that I think, I am starting to think globally. All right, let's get practical about it. So the first one is that I like to follow prices, not just stocks. Next time you travel, or even when you are shopping online, pay attention to prices in other countries or even in your neighborhood. What seems expensive or cheap, it might reveal a lot about currency strength or inflation. Most of the time, when I'm getting services, for example, insurance, or I go in a restaurant or a retail shop, I learn about that business. The way they treat me, the way the business is structured, I become so curious. I remember sometimes even when I'm walking, I see a nice uh, hotel or a restaurant. Usually, sometimes what comes to my mind is like, is this publicly listed, so that I can also consider looking at it and investigating to see if this business is making money. It might be a potential business for me to invest as a retail trader. So that's point number one. Number two, diversifying with global ETFs or even publicly listed stocks that have a global footprint. There are exchange traded funds that invest in Europe, Asia, emerging markets, and you can buy them right away, even from your Canadian or US trading account. It's a simple step into the global investing. But I follow Warren Buffett's teachings, and one of the things that he mentions is that, let's say, for example, if I invest in Berkshire Hathaway, or also let me say, in the interest of full disclosure, when I'm recording this video, I actually own Berkshire Hathaway shares. But the way that I look at it, Berkshire Hathaway as an example, it is a global exposure because they have shares, at least from the time that I last checked, on Apple, which is diversified. Apple products are actually even manufactured in India, China, but the products are also sold globally. They've also invested in Japan. So that shows that even if I buy Berkshire Hathaway Class B shares here in Canada, I would still have that exposure to that, because when I own a piece of like one share, it means I own a piece of share of that particular business. So that's the way that I think about this thing in this case. Number three, read local news or even translate it. Google Translate should be your friend. A quick look at the headlines in other countries like India, Brazil, or German can tell you what people are worried about and what might just give you an edge. For example, one of the stocks that I actually bought for the long term is Mercado Libre, and it has exposure to Latin America, but also even in many parts of the world. But the way that I look at this is that the way the world is interconnected, somehow you can possibly make money by looking at companies or businesses that actually provide services or goods that actually solve the problems that we all face as human beings, regardless of these geographic boundaries. So, why pivot matters for Streetwise Economics? This trip to Switzerland wasn't just a break, it was a turning point in my life. Here on Streetwise Economics, I've talked a lot about the US and Canadian markets, and I will still do that. But starting now, I'm pivoting towards global investing, travel economics, and smarter trading with a worldwide lens. I really love traveling, but you can also expect videos on how travel costs, review inflation trends, global investing strategies for beginners, economic stories from real places that I visit, and how to make smart money moves no matter where you live, because at the end of the day, we are all connected. Before I wrap up, I just want to especially thank you all. This channel has been growing steadily, and I've been getting messages from people all over the world, from beginners just opening their first trading accounts to seasoned investors from a fresh perspective, for a fresh perspective. I appreciate every single one of you who has watched, subscribed, and supported me throughout this journey. It means a lot. I really appreciate this from the bottom of my heart. If this is your first time here, or if you have been watching in the background, please kindly hit the subscribe button, because there's so much that's going to be coming. We are going global with insights, stories, and strategies that actually make sense in real life. So wherever you are, whether you have traveled or not, know this: you don't have to leave your city or think like a global investor necessarily. You just need to stay curious. Thanks for being part of Streetwise Economics family. I will catch you in the next one. As I always say, until next time, trade and invest wisely, and may the markets be with you. Stay wise and stay global. Isaac, signing out here.